This is the reference photo I'll be working from. And actually the original didn't have the sky, but I added the sky from another photo of the same series to improve the composition. Having some sky and some space at the top creates more depth, and also the blue color from the sky gives context to the reflected blue colors we see on the surface of the waves and the foam. I have outlined the image onto a canvas already, and I will be working from top to bottom and from dark to light. So I will begin with the sky. I start painting from dark to light using a medium brush, which is not very soft, but it gives me well-defined brush strokes. And as you can see, I'm applying the paint in all directions. I'm not going in a straight line. This gives a more natural look and it helps with the blending. So I'm going to be gradually building up the colors, and as I move closer to the horizon line, I'm going to be working with mostly powder blue, which is a very light blue, and ivory instead of white. Now to blend the sky, I'm using a softer brush and I'm not applying pressure. Instead, I'm gently brushing over the top layer because applying too much pressure will only remove the paint, and of course we don't want that. Now that the sky is complete, I'm going to move to painting the surface of the sea. Again, I'm starting from dark to light, and I'm going to be gradually building up the colors and the shapes of the waves. And I'm going to be using the same blue which I used for the sky, because the blue which is showing on the surface of the sea is reflecting the sky above it. The background waves in this photo reference are not very remarkable, so I would consider them part of the background of my painting. And I'm not going to focus on painting every little detail. I'm instead going to use my brush strokes to create the effect of the different waves as they're seen in the background. I'm just going to use some darker colors, and this is darker turquoise and raw umber for the waves. And of course for the surface of the sea I'm going to mix with blue, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to keep working on it until I like the result. And obviously after the painting is finished I may retouch some details, but like I said, it's part of the background and it is not the main focus of the painting. The main interest here is really the foamy wave in the foreground, and I will paint this after I'm done with the sea in the background. So I'll just keep working until I like the results, and then I will move on to the next stage. Now I'm moving on to the most challenging but also most exciting part of the painting, and that is the foamy wave in the foreground. Everything else up until this point was mostly just background work and a preparation for the main part of the painting. And as with everything else, I am starting from dark to light. You can see the colors that I'm using. I'm using this dark green color, and the name is in the video and the description, and also raw umber. I'm also going to be using some royal blue, and the royal blue from it is a student's acrylic, and it is a bit darker than the professional royal blue acrylic from the same company. I don't know why there is no consistency. The quality, of course, is the same. They're both very good and long lasting, so it doesn't matter, but they don't come in the same colors, but they have the same name. It's both called royal blue. And I'm going to be using the student version in this case because it is much darker, and I'm going to use it for the shades and mostly for the shading where I need the white to be in dark color. As you can see, I'm painting different patches of color, and this is an underpainting. I'm painting the colors which I see underneath. I'm for the moment ignoring all the little details, so I'm just applying different patches of color, and they're going to be the base of the wave. When I complete the underpainting, I'm going to move on to painting the fine details of the foam. Now I'm beginning to paint the white parts of the foam, and this is quite challenging because although we know the foam is white, the colors which we are actually seeing are mostly tones of blue and gray, and I'm going to apply the white paint at the very end. I'm starting from dark to light, as I have done throughout this painting. I'm applying in green and the spots where we see some of the sea showing through, and the foam I'm beginning to paint with dark blue, and I'm going to gradually build it up to lighter blue and white. Again, because it is in the shadow and it is reflecting the sky, we are seeing the foam mostly in blue, although we know that the color of the foam is actually white. There isn't a lot to say for this stage of the painting. I'm mostly just showing the painting process, and I'm going to speed up the video a little bit. But if you want to play it in real time, or if you want to play it slower or faster, you can adjust that on YouTube. Again, this is the blue and gray and green tones of the foam is the underpainting. I'm going to add lighter colors as I go along. And because I'm working in acrylics, which is a very fast drying medium, I'm adding up a little bit of lighter blue before the layer underneath has dried completely. But I'm going to add the final details at the end. just keep going until everything is covered with the undertones. Now I'm introducing a little bit more detail with a fine brush, which is quite soft and it's very thin. These are not the final touches, but I'm slowly going to introduce the detail. I'm not trying to copy the photo exactly as it is, but I'm applying brush strokes more or less on the same place where I see them on the photo, and let the brush strokes translate into the image. So I'm trying to remain true to the original in a sense without copying it, but in order to convey the same feeling, the mood, and the atmosphere, we need some level of accuracy. I'm maintaining where the foam is splashing, where the wave is making a curve, and where the light is coming from. But other than that, it doesn't have to be a replica. The painting is almost finished now, and even if I'm to stop now, it still captures the atmosphere which I wanted to convey. Our attention is going to be drawn to where we have the finer details, so it is good to have a bit more detail in selected parts of the painting. I'm still using mostly light blue and ivory instead of white to get the lighter shades of the foam, but this isn't yet the final stage. Again, I'm speeding up the painting process, but if you want to watch it in real time or even at a slower speed, you can just adjust the playback speed. And for the final stage of the painting, I'm mixing the ivory with some neon pink. I'm mainly using the neon colors to illuminate the whites, because if I'm just using white or ivory as it is, it's going to look diluted with white instead of illuminated by light. It's really just going to reduce the pigmentation, and adding a little bit of neon pink makes it glow for some reason. Also, to achieve the illusion of light, when painting any painting really, you have to be consistent with the direction of light. Meaning, don't paint your accents all over the place, in all directions. Stick to the straight line where the light source is coming from. Part of what creates the effect isn't what we see on its own, but within a given context. So we are judging the tones in relation to every other tone in the painting. So keep that in mind, because the color on its own will not create the illusion of light. And here are the finest details with a thin brush. I'm creating the droplets of foam and water. And I am basically going to apply them wherever I see them. I know that some artists like to spray the paint. I have tried this method, but it doesn't seem to work very well on acrylics. So instead I'm applying it with a brush, and I'm trying to be as random as possible so it doesn't look odd. Again, I'm using the bristles of the brush to translate into splashes of water. And here is the end result. I might go back and touch up a few details, but this is basically my painting process from start to finish. So now I will be showing you the final result.